A couple of years ago, I made a video on how to get FAA airspace authorization for drone operators using the LAANC portal or the FAA DroneZone. I'll link that video up above here if you want to check that out. This video is going to be a supplement to that because I've seen a lot of confusion amongst operators, drone operators, and the differences between getting an FAA authorization to fly in controlled airspace versus the DJI Unlock to unlock a Geo Zone, which enables the drone to fly in an authorization zone or a restricted zone. So we're going to take a look at the differences between these two, so hopefully you'll have a better idea how this all plays together and works together. So just to give you a quick high-level basic overview here, if we are the operator standing here, this is our drone, and we want to fly in controlled airspace. There's two things that we need to do. We have the FAA side of things, and we have the DJI side of things. And this is to do with the geo zones that DJI has in place to prevent people from flying in places that they shouldn't be in. If we want to fly our drone in controlled airspace, we first need to get an FAA authorization in order to do so. Once we get the FAA authorization, and again, I explained the differences on how to get these authorizations in that video link previously, either through LAANC or the FAA DroneZone. Once we have the FAA authorization, meaning the FAA has granted us approval to fly in that controlled airspace, we then need to go to DJI to unlock the Geo Zone on the aircraft to allow it to fly in that area. Now, I think where a lot of this confusion comes in is because a lot of times you may be in an authorization zone with DJI, which is pretty easy to do. Once you go to start the drone, you get the little info box that pops up saying you got to check the tick mark saying you're allowed to fly there, you're authorized to fly there. You check the boxes and all of that, and then you say unlock that zone, and you're off and running. Pretty straight and forward and easy to do. But where the confusion comes in is when you're in a zero grid and you go to start the motors on the drone, it just tells you you're in a restricted zone and you cannot fly there. Now, if you already have FAA authorization to do so, you have to be able to unlock the drone, the Geo Zone, in order to fly in that area. And that's where the process gets a little bit different, because it no longer lets you do it straight through the drone app like you do in an authorization zone. So let's take a look at these. And we'll give you some tools that you can use to figure out what you need depending on where you're going to fly. All right, so we're going to check out the DJI Flysafe website located at dji.com/Flysafe. There's a bunch of useful information on here about geo zones and how they work. If we scroll down the page, you can see a couple different sections, including how to get unlocking requests sent to DJI. So we're going to look at these. At the very top, there's a video you can watch. If you click the Learn More, that takes you to the airport geo zones and a description of how they work. As you can see, you've got the red restricted zone, in this case around the runway. Then you've got the blue authorization zone that extends out. And then we've got the other zones for the enhanced warning areas and warning areas. Along with that, you've got the altitude zones in the gray. The way the altitude zones work is the closer to the airport that you are, the less altitude you're going to be able to fly up to. So in this case, it's in meters. They've got 60 meters here as you're closer to the airport, and as you move further away, you're able to go up to 150 meters, which is the restriction for the altitude zone. Of course, FAA rules only authorize you to fly up to 400 feet, but that's how the altitude zones work. And you can see some different examples of how these all work on this page. At the very bottom, you've got a description of the zones, each one and what they mean and how they work. If we go back to the main page and scroll down a bit, we have the Geo Zone system, the Geo Zone map. If we click on that, that will take you to the map for the different geo zones that are available for the different aircraft. At the very top here, you can select an area. In our case, we're North America, United States, and then you can select which drone you have and that you're going to fly, and that'll populate the geo zone areas for that particular drone. So in our case, we're just going to select the Mavic 2, and as you can see, it populated on the map. We're going to go to Cleveland, Ohio, since that's where we're based. If you scroll down just a bit, you've got different DJI Geo Zones that you can select to be displayed on the map. By default, the restricted zones, altitude zones, and authorization zones are all already on the map. But you can also select the warning zones and the enhanced warning zones to be displayed on the map. We're not going to use those right now. We're going to basically focus on the restricted zones and authorization zones. So if we go into the map and we zoom in, this is a good example of the authorization zones versus restricted zones. As you can see, the restricted zone is covering the airport area, and then we've got the authorization zone in blue that extends outward. As I mentioned, if you're in an authorization zone, you can get the drone to unlock right through the DJI app. When you go to start the motors, you'll get that pop-up box, and you'll have to check the tick mark boxes saying that you're allowed to fly there, you're legal to fly there, and you take full responsibility for your flight. However, if we're in the red zone, which is a restricted zone, that's where we're not going to be able to unlock the drone through the DJI app. We're going to have to get FAA authorization to fly there first, and then once we have that authorization, we're going to submit that to DJI. They're going to go through it, and then they will unlock our drone for us in order to fly in those restricted areas. Another thing I just want to point out on this map is you can see the altitude zones that extend out. We've got several of them here due to the different airports. So these gray areas are altitude zones that extend out from the runways. If you click in the box on one of those zones, it tells you what your altitude limit is for that area. And again, as we move closer into the airport, you can see the altitude drops down. We went from 150 meter limit to 60 meter limit. So this tool can be useful in that you are able to see the restricted or authorization areas that you might be flying in, depending on where you're looking to operate from. You can change the map to a satellite map. You can zoom in and out. So if you know an area that you might be flying in, say it was over here somewhere, you could click that area and it's going to tell you that this is an authorization zone. So we should be able to unlock the drone right from the DJI app and fly in that area. So if we go back to the main page and scroll further down, we have the area for unlocking requests. So if we wanted to fly in a restricted zone, meaning we're going to have DJI unlock our drone for us to be able to fly in a restricted zone, this is where you would have to submit those requests. Now you can also submit authorization zone unlock request through this area as well. So if we go to the unlock a zone page, this brings up the page. It shows you all of the zones that you've had unlocked in the past, and there is a new unlock request button at the top. If you click on the new unlock request button, it brings up a notice. You can read that. You'll have to confirm that. And then we've got two different types of unlocking requests. We have a custom unlock, which means we're going to draw a circle or a polygon around a specific area that we're going to fly in. Or we also have the zone unlocking. Zone unlocking unlocks the entire zone. So if it's an authorization zone, it will unlock that entire authorization zone, allowing you to fly in that area. So for the purposes of this video, we'll just look at zone unlocking. So you click zone unlocking, confirm, and then it's going to take us to this page. Now this page has already been filled out for me because I've already put my information in here. Once you get down to this page where these drop boxes are, if you don't have anything in here yet, you can add a device for your drones, and then you can also add pilots through the blue add device and add pilot links. Since we've already put this information in, when we click on one of the boxes, it already has our aircraft entered in here. So we're going to click the Mavic 2. When we go to the next box, it's the specific aircraft with our DJI flight controller serial number. So we're going to select that. And then we move down to pilots. We'll select our pilot. And then we hit next. So on this map is where we're going to select our authorization or restricted zone that we would like to have unlocked. So in this case, we'll go to Cleveland, Ohio again. And let's just say for this demonstration that we wanted to unlock the authorization zone. We would click on the authorization zone, and down here it shows us that that's what we have selected. We're going to put in a time range. And then we put in our unlocking application reason. So you can put a description in here of what you're planning to do or why you're planning to fly there. Once that's filled out, you'll click submit. So you should see a submission successful message. And then it takes us to the unlock request page where you can see all of the unlock requests that you've submitted in the past, including the one we just submitted, showing that it has been accepted by DJI and it should now be unlocked on our drone, which we'll look at in just a second. If we click on the view link right next to that, it takes you to the unlocking request details page where you can see the basic information about you, the devices that were unlocked, the pilots, and the unlocking application details along with a map at the bottom. As you can see, our unlock request unlocked the entire blue authorization zone around Burke Lakefront Airport. So now that the application was accepted by DJI and unlocked, we can check that in the DJI app. If we go into the DJI app and click on the three dots on the top right of the screen, that will open up the general settings page in the DJI app. From there, if we scroll down towards the bottom of the page, you'll see the flight restrictions unlocking license menu. If we tap on that, it takes us to the unlocking license list. We have the app and aircraft side of things to deal with here. The app side is what authorizations have been imported into the app. It doesn't necessarily mean they're on the aircraft yet. So we need to tap the import to aircraft button to import that license into the aircraft. And as you can see, our serial number matches with the serial number of the authorization that was submitted to DJI that was approved. So this is the correct one. It also shows the submission date and time. So if we tap the import to aircraft button, it imports that authorization into the aircraft and now allows it to unlock to fly in that geo zone. So now if we go over to the aircraft side, you can see that the authorization zone has been unlocked for the valid date of 8/29 to 8/31, just as we submitted. You can turn on and off this authorization zone as you need to. And here's a little bonus tip. If you have the authorization zone unlocked and you go to try to fly the drone outside of the authorization zone, sometimes it will not allow you to fly until you turn off that authorization zone. It's a weird thing, but the authorization zone being unlocked will only let the drone fly in the unlocked authorization zone. So sometimes if you try to fly outside the authorization zone and that authorization zone is still turned on the app, your drone may not let you take off. Go back into the authorization zone unlocking list and turn the authorization zone back off, and it should let you fly again. If you do want to turn the authorization zone back on again, you would tap the slider and it'll pop up the box saying, are you authorized to fly in this area? Do you accept full responsibility for your flight? Again, you'll have to put the check mark boxes in each one of those, and then you tap OK, and it should unlock the authorization zone again so that you can fly in that area. So we talked about how to get authorization zone unlocks through the DJI Flysafe website. The process is exactly the same if you want to do it with a restricted zone. Restricted zones can be unlocked through the DJI Flysafe website as well. It's just there's going to be an extra step that you're going to have to take in order to submit that you have proof of an authorization from the FAA to DJI, and then they will unlock that restricted zone for you to fly in. So we'll just quickly take a look at getting authorization for a restricted zone through the DJI Flysafe website. If we go back to the unlock request page and we click on new unlock request, we'll hit confirm. We're going to do zone unlocking. Hit confirm, and again fill out the information on the form here. Click next. And this is actually a good example because we are actually part of the drone demonstration team coming up this week for the Cleveland National Air Show, which is Labor Day weekend, September 2nd to September 5th. So we'll have to actually be doing this for real here very shortly. We don't have the paperwork for it yet, but this is the process that we'll be using. So let's just say we wanted to unlock the restricted area around Burke Lakefront Airport. We would select the red restricted area. As you can see, it's selected there. We put in our time frame, the dates that our FAA authorization is good for. And then we'll write a unlocking application reason. So in this case, we'll put in Cleveland National Air Show drone demonstration team. From that point, the differences between getting an authorization zone request versus a restricted zone request is that for the restricted zone request, we have to show proof that we have FAA authorization to DJI to fly in these restricted areas. And that's where if you scroll down the page, it says Files, upload the required documents for unlocking the selected Geo Zone. Provide all materials, including but not limited to any flight authorization, permits, licenses, or agreements, etc., etc. This upload button is where we're going to upload our documentation so that DJI can see we have authorization to fly in that area. So usually what we'll do is we'll get a copy of the FAA DroneZone authorization, or even a LAANC authorization that we have. We'll take a screenshot of that and we can upload it here to the website through through the upload button. Once you've uploaded the forms required, you're going to hit the submit button, and from that point you should see the successful submission. And when you go back into the unlock request page, you'll see under status that the application is pending review. Now this could take anywhere from 10 minutes to maybe an hour for them to review that application and authorize it so that your drone can be unlocked to fly in that restricted area. But that's how you would do it for a restricted area as well. So you can do it with authorization areas or restricted areas. So I know this was a long video and we covered a lot, but I wanted to make sure that we didn't leave anything out, especially for anybody who hasn't used the Flysafe website or getting DJI authorizations to fly in controlled airspace. Just one thing to be aware of, that just because you have an FAA authorization doesn't mean your drone knows that you have that authorization. You have to unlock the drone in order to be able to fly there. The FAA site is separate from the drone geofencing side of things. So you need to be able to unlock your drone if you have that authorization, especially important if it's in a restricted zone, because the drone is not going to take off until you submit that paperwork or that proof of authorization to DJI. If you've gotten some use out of this video, found it helpful, got some information out of it, we really appreciate it if you'd leave a like, subscribe if you'd like. We're hoping to put out some more videos soon on stuff like this. If you have any comments, requests for other videos, questions, leave those in the comments below. We look forward to seeing those. And until then, until next time, fly safe.